All right, so welcome to the forum. So today we're going to do a little bit of forum discussion, and it will be very much based on your participation to keep this conversation going. So my name is Apipol Seitang. I am the academic coordinator from the International Academic Forum, and I'll be moderating the session today together with Professor Howie. So I've seen some returnees from our previous conferences, but some of them are still outside. A little bit of, I'll take a couple of minutes to sort of explain what we're going to do with the forum. So the forum is a thing that we sort of invented and implemented in our conferences since May 2024. And that begins with the discussion of global citizenship. And why we discuss global citizenship is earlier in the year, we run membership survey of what you want to see being discussed at the conferences. And among the 4 themes that Dr. Howden has been introduced since yesterday and today, one of them is global citizenship. So that is what we will discuss today. And in addition to that, we'll also discuss about global leadership as well. So that's today's forum will touch upon 2 themes that we have set there. Right, so just to sum up, the forum is an ongoing discussion style session where delegates discuss issues around global citizenship applied to the geographical context in which each conference is held. And IAFOR's strength, if you will, lies in its ability to attract people from the front lines who experience issues firsthand. So IAFOR created the forum discussion series to give a platform to our community to speak up and sort of tell their side of the story regarding the applied global citizenship. So share with us. So during the session, you will need your smartphone, smart devices, to scan a QR code to participate. Right, so today's topic is global leadership in fragmenting world. The whole abstract is on page 45 of your conference guide. So after having discussed Korea's leadership potential in the previous panel, we would like to discuss with all of you how we should define leadership in fragmenting world. So today's world with ongoing wars have shifted power balance and re-militarized country, and more issues on contemporary developmental issues, such as climate action and climate change, frontier technology are disrupting jobs, societies, and security, while global trade and the economy are disrupted due to war-related restrictions. And international entities like the World Economic Forum are proposing to rethink international cooperation and work towards a more innovative and inclusive approaches. While the proposed solution hints toward a new type of multilateral cooperation, we would like to ask you or together to join in a conversation to think about new type of leadership required to implement all these ambitious plans and partnerships in reaching the goal together. So we'll invite you to discuss what new leadership looks like in a fragmenting world. So we need you all to speak up, but to do a little icebreaker, we have some questions for you. Okay, so first question is, and this is from my good friend back in the office, my fellow academic coordinator, Melina. You are stuck on a deserted island. Who would you choose as your leader? Arnold Schwarzenegger or Michael Jackson? Okay, in group, a couple of minutes, talk to 4 or 5 people around you, and then After that, we'll share a result. Lovely.
Please try to make sure that you are speaking to people that you don't know as well as people that you do know, okay?
Yeah, you can move around.
Please move around and meet some new people.
Okay. Lovely. All right, thank you. Now, some volunteers to share who would they rather have as a leader. Any volunteers? Raise your hands up. And why as well, yes. I see hands, Matthew. Yes.
In answer to the first question, I prefer Arnold because I need food and water in the island, and he's a powerful man and can help me. And of course, he can entertain me.
All right, thank you. We have one in the back, Matthew. Hands up. Hands up, please. No. Over here? Over there first, on the same row, yes.
Can you put your hands high in the air as well, please?
Or you can just stand up.
Okay, in contradictory, good morning. I'm Mrs. Heidi Clarity from the Philippines. I will choose Michael Jackson, the king of pop. Why? Because like him, I guess I will enjoy because I love performing arts. Okay, and since he's the king of pop, I love also the music that Michael Jackson has. And of course, his creativity could also be the reason for us to survive. We'll just brainstorm together. So, what is also something good about this combination of us is that I will take the logical side and he will take the creative side. And that's all. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Maybe one more respond from the gentleman in the back. Thank you.
Okay, good morning. So we were discussing it. We came to a conclusion that we'd rather have Arnold Schwarzenegger because, for one, he's still alive. And then next, he has experience being a governor. So he's had leadership position in the past. So we believe that he could probably lead us into getting out of the deserted island.
Lovely. Thank you. And some correction that was a Matthew's question. All right, maybe we will do one more question. You can discuss in the same group or stand up, walk around. We'll do question number 3. If you could invent a new holiday, what would it celebrate? If you could invent a new holiday, what would it celebrate? Let's go. 3 minutes. All right, lovely. 1 minute's up. Now, volunteer. Hands up. There we go. The ladies in the back. And then we have another lady here on my right side.
Hi, so good morning. We reached a consensus actually. If we were to invent a new holiday, it would be called Me Day, where we could celebrate rest, sleep, and actually take time to have self-care because we're so concerned with competition and hard work that we forget to rest.
Thank you. We were just having this conversation up on the stage. And that's what I was answering to Professor Howie as well. I was like, it's self-care day, you know? All right, Matthew.
I think I'd work on my self-care day.
Yeah.
And where's the next one?
Thank you. I'll talk on behalf of all of our group members. For me, it was kind of like self-care, but for me, it was more like mental health day. So take time for your mental health. And over here, my colleague was saying she'd rather not, because she already has lots of holidays celebrated in her country. And the fact being, oftentimes on holidays, shops are closed, everything's closed, so it's kind of inconvenient for that purposes. And over here, my colleague was saying she'd rather have something, again, similar to what they were saying, to celebrate humanity. So a day to just rest and just talk about our collectiveness as humans. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So usually national or so-called national holidays are basically on national stuff. But Professor Howe, what about you? If you could invent a new holiday, what would you celebrate?
Well, first of all, I am English, and the English have the fewest national holidays in the world. Partly because, of course, we don't get to celebrate independence from the English, which most of the world seems to celebrate. But also because we don't have the additional drinking holidays that they have in Scotland. So we have a dire need of more holidays. But if I were to invent a new holiday, I think I'd want to look at empowering the subaltern, or the giving voice to the voiceless. So it'd be a holiday that everyone should focus on what they can do for those who are less empowered or have less voice than they do. And I think everyone can find someone who is less empowered or has less voice than them. So it'd be more of a what you can do for others than what can be done for you day.
Lovely, lovely. Thank you so much. That is a very worldly mindset right there. All right. So now it's your participation. Get your phone, get your camera, whatever device that you can scan the QR code ready. So QR code here. Scan, please. And the first question is, what we'd like to discuss with you, and then we'll go from whatever word clouds that we have. So your participation is highly, highly, highly encouraged or required. So first question, what does new global leadership look like in a geopolitically contested world? We'll wait for the word cloud. So like people scan. There we go. First one, difficult.
And I think it's interesting what's coming up here. We have two different takes already. One is what's wrong with the leadership at the moment, and the other is what should leadership look like in the future?
Yes.
Both of which are implied by the question. So this is good. So you've got kind right next to scary. So that really does contrast the two types of concept there.
It's rather scattered. There we go. We have challenging coming at the highest.
So I think we could group all of these into those two categories, can't we? That some are looking at the more optimistic, what we want from world leadership, new leadership, and the others are looking at what are the challenges faced in new leadership. I think something else we could think about is who is doing the leading?
This one there, a leader with lots of humor. Okay. Yeah, I think we can see the trends there.
Yes, absolutely. So the combination of the two, if you look at the most popular, inclusive and difficult, or variations of inclusive and difficult. So we want the future leadership to encompass everybody, to represent everybody, everyone can contribute to, but it's going to be very difficult to get there.
Do you want to move?
Yep.
Yep. Okay.
Maybe we should ask a few people why they chose those words.
Good idea.
Do we want to start with challenging first? Do we want to
Sure.
start? Yeah. Anybody would like to
Difficult
elaborate?
or challenging or various riffs on a theme there.
Does
Anyone like to say why it's difficult or challenging?
Good morning once again. So I find it challenging. It's all because of the two factors. First, we have generations that are called the digital natives, and we also have the digital immigrants. And nowadays, because of the influence of AI, this could affect those people. And since it is challenging, we as people still need to adjust with the challenges in order for us to survive. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
And anyone else who, especially if you want to talk about multicultural, inclusive.
I think that if global leadership could be happen, the world is including of different cultures. So a multicultural approach is needed for the leaders to understand different cultures, because recognition of cultures brings peace and coexistence for all of us together in a better world, I think.
Good. Actually, I think that also relates to, I saw hegemonic up there somewhere, that obviously world leadership since Bretton Woods has been provided by the United States. And one of the problems we see, well, there are probably three major problems with that. One is that it's hegemonic, and so it doesn't embrace all competing perspectives. But secondly, US abdication of leadership, especially under Donald Trump's administration, that there was the rolling back of global leadership in the United States. And thirdly, the fragmentation and contestation between the United States and other powers. So when we're looking at a new leadership, who's going to provide that leadership? I think that's what we're getting at here as well, that yes, ideally, instead of a universal perspective on leadership, we'd have a cosmopolitan perspective on leadership, an overlapping consensus, maybe, of leadership. But who's going to lead?
That's very interesting. I mean, you were raising the example of United States leadership. I see one there, too nationalistic. Do you think we can overcome so-called nationalists when it comes to, when we talk about leadership, probably it could involve some giving up of some sovereign power or control of some sort. Can nation overcome that barrier?
Well, of course, we do have the examples of middle powers that have tried to portray themselves as secular saints with these universal international commissions of do-gooding.
Right.
But a lot of these are being challenged by national interests of other powers. And I think the problem is that middle powers have tried to do this universal approach and have failed to take into account relativity of different perspectives. For instance, I don't think we really have a universal consensus on universal human rights. That we have differences of interpretation and application. What I think we have an overlapping consensus on is universal human wrongs.
True.
So maybe that's what we need to look at, is from competing epistemological and geographical traditions, what can we agree on? So a sort of bottom-up approach to leadership rather than a top-down hegemonic approach.
Right. Lovely. Thank you so much. So now that we sort of set a tone for what we have the view of what new global leadership should look like, how it's going to go, we have positive and negative. Now we're going to touch a little bit about the leader itself. So it could be a nation, it could be a person. What defines a global leader? Please take out your devices, scan the QR code, give a minute or two for responding. Ooh, lovely. of the 4 people typing. Good, good. For those of you who just joined, you can take out your smart devices, phone, iPad, scan the QR code, and join in the conversation. I think this one is interesting because when we were discussing global citizenship in other conferences, within about a minute, we see already the grouping. But now you have like about 20, 30 responses, and it's very scattered, if you can see.
But again, I think we've got a clear bifurcation of these responses. That again,
Right.
we've got what makes an effective global leader and what makes a normatively good global leader.
Right. Yeah, one says the opposite of Donald Trump.
And maybe that's for both of those categories,
Right.
effective and normatively acceptable. I think it's interesting we have action man, but also a woman. Where is the woman gone? There is a...
Yeah, I see a woman coming in very early, yes. Okay, yeah, okay. You can keep typing in your responses. Professor, how would you like to?
Okay, well,
about?
again, we see that a few are more popular, and the open-minded, adaptive, diplomatic, I think could be grouped together. Visionary is a little different. Responsible. So generally, it seems that people are looking more at the normative aspect of leadership than the effective or ability, the old definition of leader, shall we say, the Machiavellian definition of good leadership or global leadership, or I mean, we've all been susceptible to this. If you look at Shakespeare's history plays, we criticize Hamlet for vacillating about not killing his stepfather. We think, oh, he's weak. Well, shouldn't we really think about whether we should be killing our stepfathers or not, rather than just going ahead and doing it? And we cheer on Henry V, who behaves atrociously. But why do we cheer him on? Well, because he beat the French, so that's always good for an Englishman. So traditionally, we've seen global leadership in these terms, that who can drive things forward, who can strive for it. But now, clearly, the dominant perspective is much more nuanced and much more normative in terms of leadership. So I'd like to hear from anyone who put open-minded, adaptive, responsible, or indeed humble, any of these more normative considerations of leadership, why they put them there and how they think that will play out on the global stage.
So with humility, I think there's a certain self-awareness that comes into play, and you're more aware of other people when you're being humble, because you don't place your understanding and your prior skill sets and knowledge on a pedestal, and so you're able to meet people where they are. And I think that's a very strong and a very empathetic and kind leader who is humble. And yeah, humility is a strong, very empathetic value that we don't talk a lot about.
Brendan, I'd also like to say that this is something that you talked about in London, actually, about being able to understand other people and being able to meet them on that level. So, yeah, anybody else?
I wrote open-minded because I think it's very important for global leader to learn from other people, to be ready to learn, to be curious. It's Georgian word, yeah. To be curious, it's my colleague's opinion, and to cope with all nations and all citizens, not focus only on your own culture and consider other cultures. Other cultures need, as a nation's need, especially the small ones. I think it's very important, especially in the context of our first session, because small nations also need to develop, and at the same time they have their own culture, and it means that we need to integration, not assimilation. And I think that global leaders should think about all this, and for that we need open-minded global leader. Thank you.
Anyone else? Oh, there we go.
Good morning, I'm Des from the Philippines. So I put open-minded and adaptive actually. Plus the strong man, either a man or action man, a man or a woman. So it's not just man. Okay, so but I will go for the adaptive because everybody, I mean the two speakers already talked about humility and open-mindedness. Globalization, one of the facets of globalization is a fast-paced, changing system. So for me, to be adaptive, not just culturally, but also with the system and as well as the weather, the global changes, okay, around is very important. That's why a global leader for me should be adaptive before he can actually act on something. Thank you.
And I'd also like to hear about whoever put woman, because coming from Ewell Women's University, we're all about empowering women, and I quite agree it's about time we had some global leadership from women, but I'd like to hear about who put woman and why. Or if you're too shy, that's okay.
I think women leaders are responsible and more open-minded than men. And also, they know diplomatic ways, how to negotiate and how to calm down. Thanks.
And I'd like to point out that the leadership in this room has primarily come from the women in the audience as well.
True, true. Any point you would like to cover more, or should we move on to the next question?
Let's move on to the next one.
Okay,
we've
lovely.
got quite a few to go through, so.
Yes. Right, and this will be the last slide of questions, so get your phone ready. What can your country do to become a global leader? What can your country do to become a global leader? So you can type in what your country can do, and then when you want to give responses, you can just like introduce where you're from, and then why you type it, why you submit your responses like that.
Now, I find this very interesting as well, because all of the responses, I think, are focused on the non-traditional elements of leadership, rather than traditional elements. That we don't see anyone say, oh, we need to build up our military, or we need to have the next wave of technological innovation. That nearly all of them focused on social aspects, setting a good example, so really tying in nicely with our global citizenship theme. The way you lead is to be a good global citizen. Still got some more coming.
Yes.
Good, good.
Ooh, corruption,
Oh,
education.
education and stop corruption. Good, good. We've got corrupt over there as well.
Stop corruption, transparency.
Yeah. So that really does seem to be the most popular one, that everyone is concerned about the levels of corruption. Now, of course, all countries are somewhat susceptible to corruption, and that includes South Korea, which I'll talk about as my country, in that in the OECD rankings, transparency rankings, Korea is, I think, the most corrupt democracy. I could be right. Certainly last time I checked, it was listed. Obviously, there are undemocratic countries that are much more corrupt than Korea. But it's another stain on Korea's reputation. So the androcentric nature of Korean society, but also there's an ongoing issue with corruption, even given the tremendous success story that is South Korea. So, what does it keep cutting out? Oh, battery going. Oh. So I'd like to hear from people who have identified dealing with corruption or enhancing transparency in their countries as the most important thing they can do to become a global leader.
Anybody?
One over there? Maybe it's politically dangerous for you to say that. I don't know.
Okay, once again, good morning. I am actually one of those who were able to put stop corruption. First, if you stop corruption, you are becoming selfless and you become more proactive than reactive. That means you think before you act, than reactive, you act before you think. As a leader, that is something to be needed in different countries around the world. Because if you stop corruption, you will learn not to be only for yourself, but to care for people. And because you care for people, there will be world peace, unity, and equality. And I thank you.
Thank you, very good. Who else would like to talk about corruption? Can I offer you any incentives? No, no. Okay, well, as we're the education conference as well, let's talk about who put improve education and why. What is the causal link between improving education and making your country a global leader? Certainly that's been Korea's approach. No one owning up to that one?
There should be. It's not that there's never a wrong answer, so it's just a response.
About the education of women, I think the women are more important because if you educate a woman, you educate a nation, you can educate a nation. So the affection that the women can have in the nation is very important, I think, in my country. I see that the women are now challenging seriously against the government, and they could win, you know. And we don't put hijab in the streets now, despite of the mullahs regime in my country. And you know, it's a social learning. It brings social learning for the other women. And I think we should focus on women's education. That's why I wrote Women's Revolution. They can bring revolution, in my opinion. I did it myself in my country.
Thank you. Any more perspective on education? Yes.
I send funding education because education means more languages, more technology, um, enhanced economics, and more open minded. It means progress. And I think it's a great base to become a global leader.
Yeah, I think that's very important that we're looking at the benefits of education again from both the technocrat level, that if we educate our societies more, we'll develop more, but also the normative impact of education. I think it was Thomas Jefferson said that if you think your citizens are not sufficiently capable to make informed decisions, the answer is not to remove them from the franchise, but to educate them better. And I think that's what we need to focus on in education. There is a danger in this very competitive world that we miss out on the social aspect of education, the normative aspect of education. In Korea, I know one of the main problems that we face is there's an undue focus on STEM subjects. The major research funding, we used to have two bodies. One focused on arts and humanities and social sciences, and the other focused on the hard sciences. But then they were merged together, and as a result, nearly all the funding goes to the STEM research. So this is very problematic. We still have Korean cultural funding, but when it comes to the social sciences, there's a danger they're left behind. And I think this could have a negative effect in the future on the nature of Korean democracy. So we need to pay attention to that, I think, that we don't get too caught up in technocratic education, that we also need to go hand in hand with the social education.
Right, thank you. So we have one response from the gentleman in the back. It's on education as well, I think.
Thank you very much. My name is Kamogelo Noge from South Africa. I think let me own up for the stopping corruption because I'm the one who brought it up. Corruption is at the center of each state today. So it starts with individualism, personal accumulation, and then to become a global leader, like we need to enforce or building frameworks that will improve education, obviously, and to broaden the scope through the knowledge economy. Thank you.
All right, I think that's pretty good sum up for this question.
Yep.
Yep, lovely.
Very good.
Okay. So I'd like to bring you to the next two discussion question. And now we're not going to use the QR code anymore, but we'll be, sort of like a spoken discussion question. So here in the conference, we have people from different levels within the education. Your students, your educators, your professors. Now, how can we exercise leadership as students, educators, professionals and institutional or governmental representatives. It could be from your perspective, from your personal experience, or, I mean, interestingly, it could be what you think, for example, institutional or governmental representatives should do in order to exercise leadership.
So this is without QR code. So
without the QR code. So
I just want people to
raise your hand and Matthew.
Thank you. So I guess the question goes back to sort of a reduction of corruption and improving education as well. We have highly educated leaders in UK, US, Australia. I'm coming from Australia, but their global approach is really quite limited. There's a lot of cruelty and brutality when it comes to a lot of decision making that's happening right now when it comes to weapons of mass destruction, war manufacturing, and the media leaders are also highly educated. So this is a question for you, Professor, and for you, sir. So we as educators have a responsibility, but we do work in institutions that are very, very political, and at times taking stand is also it's very controversial and it's very difficult as well. You have to take stand, of course, but how do we talk about exercising leadership, but also good leadership, not nasty sort of leadership as educators, as professional members?
Okay, really putting me on the spot there. Well, what I try to do in my leadership, I don't shy away from controversy. I will take a stand, and it has got me into trouble in several countries and several times. But also, I hope that my style of leadership is to show solidarity with my people. So I think this is the important thing, that you don't really have authority as a leader other than what is freely given to you by the people you represent. So you don't have rights as a leader, you have responsibilities as a leader. And those responsibilities sometimes include speaking truth to power, standing up. But also it means making sure that those with less power, with less authority, with less voice are represented. So you have to continually consult with those that you're representing when you're speaking truth to power. At least that's what I try to do.
Lovely. Any more responses?
I think as an educator, I am a pattern for my students, so the behavior matters. There should be a balance between our speeches and our actions. And we should give wise consultation to them. That would be a good leadership, I think.
Thank you. So we are almost at the end of our session.
One more.
We have one more. Okay, let's go. Do it. Anybody who'd like to give more responses, you can take the picture of the question and you can submit it in writing later.
Okay, for the last time. Thank you so much. I want to enumerate this one by one, ladies and gentlemen, because I want this to be concluded. First, for students, they should practice critical, creative, and analytical thinking before they graduate in a university or institution. For educators, these people should be very good influencers to students and train the students with 3 different types of skills: the functional, acquired, and personal trait skills. For professionals, we should never stop learning, and we should keep on adapting to the changes of our world and find something innovative to support our institution. And for institution who is actually leading, let the institution take the lead by sharing something that could be used by other institutions as well, by keep on sharing researches, for example, and they should have at least trifocal function. This institution shall achieve first, institutional academic excellence. Second, community extension. And third, research, of course, should also be part of that trifocal function. And lastly, for governmental representatives, this should be great influencers, okay, wherein they think for people and be with people. And I thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Right, lovely. I'm going to go to the last question, and that will sum up before we go to lunch. So, how can we prepare young leaders to be global citizens before they can step into the role? I think this goes for teachers, professors. There we go. We have a hand there. Thank you, Matthew.
Wow, lots of hands going up.
Lovely, lovely. I love this energy.
Thank you. My name is Evie from Indonesia. I think for young generation, they should know about their identity first. They should know about themselves, the strength, the weakness, and how to maintain and improve it. After that, they should know how to present themselves to other people, how to present their identity, be bold, be brave, and be proud of their identity, with no doubt. And then after that, they need to learn and have a willingness to learn about other perspective, other people, and have broadened perspective and how to approach other people with many different approaches, because we know that different identity means a different approach, right? So that's the first step before moving to the other steps. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Can I have one more response, and then we'll let Professor Howe conclude the discussion? Or do you want more responses?
Let's take a couple.
Okay, maybe one over here and one over in the back. Thank you.
My name is Shafika. I'm from the Maldives. I am a lecturer. And talking about global citizenship and how can we prepare young leaders to be global citizenship, I'll take one example, that's climate change. Climate change is affecting our country, and we are one of the most vulnerable countries in the world to climate change due to sea level rise and other factors. And we need to show and we need to teach, we need to incorporate this into the curriculums of the teacher education as well as the normal curriculum in the schools. And as a research project, me and my colleague, Dr. Shyama, we are undertaking global citizenship education and sustainable development as a research project, which we are going to present tomorrow afternoon. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Matthew, one in the back, please. Yep, thank you. So those of you who want to respond, you can take a picture of the question again and write me. I'll include it in the report. Thank you.
I'm Sipiwe from South Africa, and I would like to contribute in how we can prepare young leaders. Firstly, my take is that young leaders, they look from us as the elder generation. So the way how we conduct ourselves in the society, in the institutions, in every space where we are, that's a good example of how we can prepare them. But if we are not conducting ourselves in a more open and visionary way, then we cannot expect young leaders to become good products of what we are. Thank you.
Is that good?
Okay, well, thank you all very much for this wonderful participation. And I think what we've discovered through this is the very close relationship between good global citizenship and good global leadership. That you need to be both. You need to be a good global citizen, but also where you can in your life, you need to provide leadership and assistance for others, especially those that are less empowered than you. So please keep these comments coming. They'll be incorporated in the final report of the conference. So look forward to hearing more of your opinions as we go through the day.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Professor.